slightly awkward for the other flatmates, or okay?
No, to be honest, they were perfectly happy with it. They were used to it, watching me sort of catching things fire, and they found it very amusing.
But I mean, having the two of you going out in the flat, or did they just not bat an eyelid?
I think at first they were sort of a bit surprised that it was what happened, and then they realised it was really nice and it was good fun, and we got on really well. They were good friends of ours as well, and so we had a good giggle with them as well.
Royal chaos is exploding. Reports claim Queen Camilla has suddenly fled the country, and it's all tied to a shocking $80 million lawsuit linked to Prince William. The whispers are loud, the stakes are massive, and the fallout could shake the monarchy to its core. Is this the end of royal unity as we know it? When stories about the British royal family begin to circulate online, they often spread with remarkable speed. A headline suggesting that Queen Camilla has left the country after facing an $80 million lawsuit from Prince William.
5 Nobel laureates and 525 years of academic excellence. Your future, I know, will be greater still. And as your very proud Chancellor, I will be cheering you on every step of the way. Thank you.
Is one of those stories that immediately catches attention. It combines the weight of the monarchy with the drama of legal disputes and family tensions. But before diving into speculation, it is worth stepping back and asking what is actually confirmed, what is rumor, and why such a headline finds traction in the first place. At the time of speaking, there is no verified evidence from trusted British or international news outlets that Prince William has filed a lawsuit of that scale, or that Queen Camilla has abruptly left the United Kingdom. Major broadcasters such as the BBC and Sky News, as well as established newspapers like The Guardian, The Times, and The Telegraph, have not reported on anything resembling an $80 million lawsuit between members of the royal household. Likewise, Queen Camilla has recently been seen at public events, supporting King Charles III during official duties, and continuing her own charitable commitments. These appearances suggest she has not quietly disappeared from the country. So why do headlines like this still surface? And why do people share them so widely? Part of the answer lies in how the internet rewards content that mixes sensationalism with a hint of plausibility. The British royal family is one of the most watched and discussed institutions in the world. Every gesture, every facial expression, and every remark can be turned into a story that appears more dramatic than it is. When an eye-catching title appears online, especially one that ties together money, lawsuits, and family conflict, it quickly spreads across platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Even if readers suspect exaggeration, the headline alone can be enough to spark conversation. There is also historical context that makes these kinds of rumors feel believable to some audiences. The royal family has, at times, been involved in legal disputes. Prince Harry, for example, has taken legal action against British tabloids over allegations of phone hacking and privacy invasion. Those cases have been widely covered in the press and have shown that senior royals are not entirely removed from the world of courtrooms and damages claims. Because people remember those stories, they may be more inclined to think that another senior royal, like William, could pursue legal action of his own. However, it is important to stress that William has not, to date, been associated with an $80 million lawsuit against Camilla or any other member of the family. What also makes the rumor spread is its emotional weight. The idea of Prince William, who is widely seen as the future of the monarchy, taking such a drastic step against Queen Camilla, who has worked to carve out her role as queen consort, plays into a long-standing fascination with internal royal dynamics. Since the marriage of King Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, the public and the press have closely followed how she is perceived within the family and by the British public. Although she has gained more acceptance over time, there remain sections of the population who look at her with skepticism, often comparing her to the late Princess Diana. This undercurrent of divided opinion creates fertile ground for stories that portray Camilla as embattled or under pressure. In this case, the suggestion of an enormous financial lawsuit raises further questions about plausibility. $80 million is an extraordinary sum, even in the context of wealthy public figures. Legal claims of that size are usually tied to corporate disputes, intellectual property battles, or massive class action suits. not intra-family disagreements within the British monarchy. While the royals have access to resources and wealth, the scale of such a claim would immediately attract global coverage if it were filed in any legitimate court. That absence of coverage from reliable outlets is a strong indicator that the claim is, at best, speculative and more likely fabricated. Still, the story resonates because it touches on themes of accountability, power, and transparency. Many people feel that the monarchy exists in a unique position, balancing centuries-old tradition with the modern demand for openness. Questions about how members of the royal family should be held responsible for their words or actions often surface in the media. When one family member is portrayed as challenging another through the legal system, it reflects broader debates about whether royals should be above the law or subject to the same rules as everyone else. Another reason for the spread of such a rumor is the current digital environment. Social media algorithms are designed to amplify content that generates engagement. A headline that says, "Queen Camilla has fled the country after a massive lawsuit" does exactly that. It provokes shock, curiosity, and in some cases outrage. People share it not necessarily because they believe it, but because they want to comment on it, laugh at it, or question it. The more it is shared, the more it appears on people's feeds, creating the impression that there must be some truth to it. This cycle of amplification is how misinformation gains momentum. The responsibility, then, falls both on content creators and on viewers. For creators, there is a balance to strike between making engaging material and ensuring that it is rooted in fact. For viewers, there is a need to approach headlines with a critical eye, to check whether trusted outlets are reporting the same story, and to recognize the difference between speculation and confirmed reporting. In this way, people can still enjoy the entertainment and discussion that comes with royal coverage without being misled by unfounded claims. What is real and verifiable at the moment is that Queen Camilla continues to play her role alongside King Charles III. She is actively involved in public duties, supporting causes related to literacy, domestic violence prevention, and community service. Prince William is equally active, focusing on issues such as mental health, environmental protection, and homelessness through initiatives like the Earthshot Prize. Both of them appear regularly in official photographs, video clips, and speeches released by the palace. These activities do not point to someone fleeing the country under legal pressure. That does not mean that the royal family is without challenges. The monarchy continues to navigate criticism, particularly regarding its relevance in the modern era, its colonial history, and the financial costs of maintaining the institution. There is also ongoing speculation about family tensions, especially given the public rift with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. These realities create a backdrop where any new headline about conflict, scandal, or dramatic exits can feel believable, even when the evidence does not support it. For audiences, the most constructive way to engage with a headline about Camilla fleeing the country after an $80 million lawsuit is to treat it as a starting point for a conversation, not as a confirmed fact. It is an opportunity to explore how rumors spread, why they appeal to us, and what responsibilities come with consuming and sharing content online. It is also a chance to reflect on the royal family itself, how it is represented, how it responds to criticism, and how much transparency the public can reasonably expect. At its core, this headline works because it combines drama with ambiguity. People are drawn to the idea that something big might be happening behind palace walls, hidden from view, waiting to be uncovered. Whether it is true or not matters less to some audiences than the thrill of speculating. But for those who value accuracy, it is essential to keep in mind the difference between what is claimed and what is proven. This is the environment in which discussions about the royal family take place today. On the one hand, there is a deep desire for transparency and truth. On the other hand, there is the constant churn of online platforms that reward exaggeration and rumor. Headlines about lawsuits and dramatic departures sit right at the intersection of these forces, showing both the appetite for royal news and the ease with which misinformation can spread. The reality is that, as of now, there is no evidence that Queen Camilla has fled the country because of a lawsuit from Prince William. What does exist is a swirl of online chatter, some of it deliberately exaggerated, some of it simply careless. By recognizing that distinction, audiences can protect themselves from being misled and can engage with royal coverage in a way that is thoughtful, informed, and responsible. When a story like this gains traction online, people naturally want to know what set it off. The headline suggesting that Queen Camilla has left the country after Prince William filed an $80 million lawsuit immediately raises the question, what could have triggered such a dramatic sequence of events? The simple truth is that there is no confirmed evidence of a lawsuit or of Camilla fleeing. Still, the way rumors develop often involves a combination of misunderstood remarks, speculation around private family dynamics, and the reappearance of old controversies that have never fully left the public imagination. One of the main ways misinformation spreads is through what media analysts call the trigger narrative. This is the part of the story where something is said or done that supposedly causes the bigger fallout. In the case of Camilla, online accounts suggest that she made statements or took actions that might have upset Prince William enough to consider legal action. But no credible reporting has documented any specific comment or behavior that would serve as a legal basis for such a claim. Instead, what we see are fragments of speculation, often tied to real events, but reimagined into something far more sensational. For example, Camilla has occasionally been the subject of critical commentary in the press, sometimes linked to her public role as queen consort. In recent years, she has spoken out on issues such as literacy and domestic violence, appearing at schools, charities, and official state events. While these engagements are normally well received, there are always corners of social media where critics look for fault. A casual comment, a gesture, or even a perceived look during a public appearance can spark debate. When these small sparks are picked up by accounts that thrive on sensational headlines, they can be exaggerated into supposed proof of deeper rifts within the royal family. What makes the idea of a lawsuit appealing to some audiences is the precedent of royals engaging in legal disputes. Prince Harry, as mentioned earlier, has been involved in multiple cases against media organizations, accusing them of phone hacking and privacy invasion. Meghan Markle has also successfully sued a British tabloid over the publication of a private letter. These examples are real, documented, and widely reported. But the leap from those legitimate legal actions to a fabricated story about William suing Camilla illustrates how quickly association can turn into assumption. Because lawsuits have happened before, some people find it easy to believe they are happening again, even when the details do not add up. The supposed figure of $80 million adds another layer of curiosity. It is an enormous amount of money, and it invites people to imagine what could justify such a claim. Was it reputational damage? Was it something said publicly that crossed a line? Was it a private dispute that somehow spilled into the courts? These questions create intrigue, but they also distract from the fact that no such claim has been filed or confirmed. In many cases, large figures are inserted into online rumors to make them appear more dramatic and to give the impression of seriousness. The bigger the number, the more likely people are to click, share, and comment. The psychology of rumor also plays a role. Audiences tend to connect current speculation with past controversies. In Camilla's case, her long history with King Charles and the way that relationship was viewed during his marriage to Princess Diana continues to influence how some people interpret her actions today. For decades, Camilla was seen by many as an outsider, or even as a villain in the Diana story. Although public opinion has softened since her marriage to Charles, and especially since she became queen consort, that legacy has never fully disappeared. When new headlines suggest trouble involving Camilla, they tap into a reservoir of old doubts and criticisms, making the rumor feel more plausible than it actually is. Social media adds fuel to this process by rewarding speculation over caution. Accounts that frame themselves as royal watchers often combine real images and videos with commentary that is speculative at best. A clip of Camilla making a remark in passing can be paired with a headline implying that it was an insult or a threat. A photograph of William looking serious during an event can be cropped and captioned to suggest anger or frustration. None of these individual pieces of content prove anything, but together they create a narrative that seems convincing to those who are not cross-checking against reliable news outlets. This is where the idea of a trigger becomes particularly interesting. There does not need to be a real incident to spark speculation. The rumor itself becomes the trigger. Once a headline appears, people start asking, "What did she say? What did she do?" That question encourages others to invent answers, often without evidence. Over time, the speculation builds a kind of false memory in the public space, where people begin to believe that something concrete must have happened. This cycle is what allows unverified stories to feel as though they have weight. In fact, some media researchers note that the repetition of a claim can be enough to make it seem credible. When multiple small accounts share the same narrative, even if they are all drawing from the same original rumor, audiences can mistake that repetition for corroboration. If you see the same headline 3 or 4 times on different platforms, it feels more established, even if no mainstream outlet has touched it. This phenomenon is often referred to as the illusion of truth effect, and it explains why so many people continue to engage with stories that have no factual foundation. Another aspect of the supposed trigger in this case is the idea of public accountability. There is a growing expectation that members of the royal family should be held responsible for their words and actions, just like politicians or business leaders. If Camilla had made a remark that was seen as defamatory or damaging, it is not entirely unthinkable that someone could consider legal action. But this expectation is often misapplied. While it is true that public figures are scrutinized, the legal threshold for defamation is high, and cases involving family members suing each other would be extraordinarily rare, if not unprecedented, within the British monarchy. So, what can we take away from the idea of a trigger in this case? First, it shows how speculation grows in the absence of facts. Without a confirmed event to point to, people look for patterns and possibilities, often connecting unrelated dots. Second, it highlights the role of past controversies in shaping current perceptions. Camilla's history, fair or not, makes her an easy target for rumors that suggest conflict or scandal. Third, it demonstrates the power of online platforms to amplify unverified claims, turning them into stories that feel real, even when they are not. For viewers, the important step is to pause before accepting a trigger narrative at face value. When a headline says that Camilla has fled after a lawsuit, ask whether any respected outlet has reported it. Check whether there are direct quotes, official statements, or court documents that confirm the claim. If those are missing, treat the story as speculation, not fact. Doing so not only prevents the spread of misinformation, but also allows for a more thoughtful conversation about the real challenges the monarchy faces. In the bigger picture, the fascination with triggers reveals something about the way we consume royal news. We are not just interested in events. We want to know what caused them. We want a single moment or a single comment that explains everything. This desire for neat explanations can make us vulnerable to rumors, because reality is often far more complex and less dramatic. Recognizing that complexity is part of becoming a more informed and critical audience. When a story builds momentum online, it rarely stays contained to a single claim. Instead, it tends to escalate, taking on new dimensions as people add their own interpretations, create spin-off rumors, or bring in outside institutions to make the drama appear larger. That is exactly what we see with the idea that Queen Camilla has left the country following an $80 million lawsuit, supposedly filed by Prince William. Even though there is no evidence such a lawsuit exists, the narrative expands quickly, suggesting that federal authorities or intelligence services are involved, that the palace is scrambling behind the scenes, or that Camilla's behavior has changed dramatically under pressure. This escalation is what keeps the story alive long after the original claim has already been debunked by the absence of credible reporting. The first stage of escalation often involves invoking the idea of legal traction. In fabricated stories, a lawsuit is rarely just filed. It is said to be gaining speed, gathering evidence, and attracting outside attention. These phrases give the impression of progress, as though the case has moved beyond a mere claim, and is now being taken seriously by powerful institutions. In reality, legal proceedings are a matter of public record in most democratic countries. If Prince William had filed an $80 million lawsuit against Queen Camilla, the documents would exist, the media would have access to them, and the story would dominate headlines in both Britain and abroad. The absence of such records tells us the claim is not grounded in fact, but the language of escalation makes it seem otherwise. The second stage of escalation is the suggestion of government or federal involvement. In American online spaces, references to the FBI are common, even when the story involves members of the British royal family who live under a different legal system altogether. This mismatch does not stop the narrative from spreading, because the FBI is a well-known acronym that carries weight. By inserting it into the rumor, creators make the story feel more serious and international. In reality, British royals fall under the jurisdiction of UK law, and any serious legal matter involving them would involve British courts and possibly Scotland Yard, not an American federal agency. Yet the mention of outside authorities adds a dramatic twist that makes audiences pay attention. As the narrative grows, attention often turns to the supposed behavior of the person at the center. In this case, rumors about Camilla's public appearances and private state of mind are brought in to suggest she is under pressure. Online accounts might point to a canceled engagement, a serious facial expression during an official outing, or even a moment of hesitation caught on camera, as proof that she is struggling with the weight of the supposed lawsuit. But such interpretations ignore the ordinary explanations for these moments. Public engagements are sometimes rescheduled for logistical reasons, serious expressions are common during solemn ceremonies, and hesitation can be the result of many everyday factors. None of these are evidence of a legal crisis. The concept of escalation is also tied to the broader fascination with royal image. Members of the royal family are constantly in the public eye, and their appearance is analyzed down to the smallest detail. What they wear, how they walk, and whether they smile becomes material for endless commentary. This scrutiny creates fertile ground for rumors to escalate, because any change in behavior can be woven into the narrative. If Camilla appears more serious one day, that can be linked to the idea of her facing legal or personal difficulties. The interpretation feeds the rumor, even when the underlying facts do not support it. In stories of this kind, escalation often includes speculation about private conversations and hidden strategies. The narrative may claim that palace officials are meeting in secret, that William has given ultimatums, or that Camilla has retreated to a safe location. These elements add drama, but they are rarely verifiable. The British royal household is known for its carefully controlled communication, and official statements are usually brief and measured. It is highly unlikely that insiders would leak detailed accounts of such sensitive matters to social media outlets or minor websites before established news organizations. Nevertheless, the idea of palace intrigue adds fuel to the fire, making the story more entertaining and more shareable. Another form of escalation comes from the reintroduction of past controversies. When a current rumor struggles to hold attention, old stories are pulled in to give it more weight. For Camilla, this often means revisiting the decades-old history of her relationship with King Charles during his marriage to Princess Diana. Even though that chapter of royal history has been examined extensively and is now part of the public record, it is repeatedly reinserted into new narratives. This repetition reinforces the idea that Camilla is surrounded by controversy, which in turn makes new rumors about lawsuits and departures seem more plausible to audiences who remember those earlier scandals. The escalation process also interacts with social media algorithms. When a rumor gains momentum, platforms recognize the engagement and push it to more users. Creators may then escalate the story further to keep that attention going. One way they do this is by exaggerating the consequences. In the case of the Camilla rumor, claims may be made that advertisers are withdrawing support, that petitions are circulating to cancel royal projects, or that public opinion has dramatically shifted. While it is true that public opinion about the monarchy fluctuates and that criticism exists, The sudden and extreme shifts suggested by these stories are usually not backed by reliable polling data. Instead, they rely on small samples of online commentary presented as though they represent the wider public. What this escalation shows us is that once a rumor starts, it rarely remains static. It evolves, it grows, and it adapts to new information or to the lack of information. The absence of confirmation becomes part of the story itself, with some accounts claiming that the silence of mainstream outlets is proof of a cover-up. This inversion of evidence, that the lack of reporting is actually proof of suppression, is a common feature of conspiracy-style narratives. It makes it difficult to challenge the rumor because any attempt at debunking can be reframed as part of the cover-up. For audiences, the key is to recognize this pattern. Escalation is not evidence of truth, it is evidence of the rumor machine at work. The more layers of drama are added, the more carefully we should look for solid sources. Are there court documents? Are there official statements from the palace? Are there reports from established newsrooms with reputations to protect? If those are missing, then the escalation is more likely a storytelling device than a reflection of reality. In the specific case of Camilla and the supposed $80 million lawsuit, escalation has turned an unverified claim into a sprawling narrative involving legal battles, federal inquiries, palace intrigue, and personal breakdowns. Each step has made the story more dramatic, but none of it has been substantiated by the kind of evidence we would expect from a real event of this scale. That does not mean people stop sharing it. In fact, the escalation makes it more compelling. But it does mean that those who care about accuracy should pause before passing it on. Escalation also raises broader questions about media literacy. In a digital world where stories can spread faster than ever, the ability to identify escalation and separate it from fact is crucial. It allows us to engage with news and rumors without being swept away by them. It helps us see the difference between entertainment and reality, between speculation and confirmed reporting. In the context of royal coverage, it means we can appreciate the fascination with the monarchy while still holding ourselves to a standard of truth. The case of this rumor highlights not only how escalation works, but also why it works. It works because people are drawn to drama, to the idea of uncovering secrets, and to the possibility of seeing powerful figures challenged. It works because past controversies linger in memory and can be used to support new claims. And it works because the online ecosystem rewards the most dramatic version of a story, regardless of its accuracy. Recognizing these dynamics does not stop the rumors, but it gives us the tools to navigate them more responsibly. In the end, the supposed escalation of a lawsuit between Prince William and Queen Camilla tells us more about how information spreads than it does about the royals themselves. The monarchy continues with its official duties, its challenges, and its public appearances, while online spaces create their own parallel dramas. Understanding the difference between these two worlds is essential for anyone who wants to follow royal news without being misled by the ever-escalating cycle of rumors. Whenever a rumor spirals into the public sphere, the final stage is almost always the discussion of fallout. What does this mean for the people involved, for the institutions around them, and for the audience that consumes the story? In the case of the unverified claim that Queen Camilla has fled the country after an $80 million lawsuit supposedly filed by Prince William, the fallout exists less in reality and more in perception. The British royal family continues its public duties. No credible outlet has reported such a lawsuit, and Camilla has not disappeared from view. But online, the story has created waves of commentary, debate, and criticism that illustrate the power of digital narratives, even when they are not supported by evidence. One of the first forms of fallout comes in the shape of social media reaction. As soon as a headline like this appears, hashtags begin to trend. Some users express shock or anger, others make jokes or share memes, and still others use the opportunity to revisit past grievances against the monarchy. This creates the impression of a groundswell of opinion, even if much of it is based on incomplete or inaccurate information. Because platforms are designed to highlight popular content, these reactions are amplified, reinforcing the idea that the story is bigger than it is. The fallout here is reputational, not legal. It shows how quickly a person's image can be shaped or reshaped by viral speculation. Another kind of fallout is the resurfacing of old controversies. When Camilla is placed at the center of a rumor, it often triggers renewed discussion of her past role in the breakdown of Charles's marriage to Diana. Even though decades have passed and Camilla has since become queen consort, those associations remain strong for some members of the public. Critics use the new rumor as an excuse to reframe her as untrustworthy or manipulative, while supporters argue that she has worked hard to earn her place and deserves fairness. This polarization demonstrates how past events can cast long shadows, influencing reactions to current stories regardless of their truth. In these moments, fallout also spreads to the wider institution of the monarchy. When one royal is portrayed as embattled, the entire family comes under scrutiny. People ask whether the monarchy is stable, whether it can survive ongoing controversies, and whether it still serves a purpose in modern society. These questions go beyond Camilla herself and touch on the broader legitimacy of the royal system. Critics may use the rumor as an opportunity to argue for reducing the monarchy's role or even abolishing it altogether. Supporters may double down, defending the institution as a symbol of continuity. In both cases, a story that began with a questionable claim evolves into a wider debate about national identity. Financial fallout is often suggested in online narratives, with claims that advertisers or donors are pulling support. In the context of the royal family, the parallel would be speculation about sponsorships of royal initiatives, charitable donations, or even public funding. While there is no evidence of such financial fallout linked to this rumor, the idea taps into real debates about the cost of the monarchy to taxpayers. Each time a controversy surfaces, whether true or not, it reignites the question of whether the monarchy provides value for money. This issue is especially sensitive during times of economic pressure, when public spending is closely scrutinized. The personal dimension of fallout is also part of the narrative. Even without evidence, rumors portray Camilla as shaken, stressed, or isolated. Stories claim that she has missed meetings, become quieter at events, or left the country altogether. These details paint a picture of personal collapse, but they are not substantiated by fact. What they reflect instead is the audience's desire for dramatic resolution. People are more likely to engage with a story if it shows clear consequences, even if those consequences are speculative. This human element makes the rumor compelling, but it also raises ethical concerns about projecting private struggles onto public figures without evidence. The broader implication of such fallout is the question of media responsibility. When unverified claims are repeated enough times, they begin to shape public perception. Even if they are later debunked, the initial impression often lingers. This phenomenon, sometimes called the sticky rumor effect, means that damage to reputation can be difficult to reverse. For the royal family, which depends heavily on public image, such rumors pose a real risk. They may not lead to lawsuits or resignations, but they can erode trust over time. The lesson for content creators is clear. While sensationalism may attract views in the short term, it can also contribute to a culture of misinformation that has long-term consequences. For audiences, the fallout invites reflection on how we consume information. Do we share headlines without checking sources? Do we treat speculation as fact? Do we allow our opinions of public figures to be shaped by unverified claims? These questions are important because they shift the responsibility from the rumor itself to the way it is received. Each viewer has the power to slow the spread of misinformation by pausing before sharing, by checking whether credible outlets are reporting the same story, and by engaging in discussion with a healthy degree of skepticism. The case also highlights a tension between freedom of speech and accountability. On one hand, people have the right to discuss public figures, speculate about them, and even criticize them. On the other hand, spreading false claims can cause harm, particularly when they involve reputations and institutions of national significance. Balancing these rights is one of the central challenges of the digital age. In the absence of strong regulation, the responsibility falls on creators and audiences to navigate this space responsibly. In the larger context of royal coverage, fallout from rumors like this shows both the enduring fascination with the monarchy and the risks that come with that fascination. The British royal family is a symbol, a tradition, and a human story all at once. This makes it uniquely vulnerable to rumor. Every action is interpreted, every word analyzed, and every silence filled with speculation. For Camilla, this means that even unfounded stories can take on a life of their own, shaping how she is viewed despite her efforts to carry out her duties. What can be learned from this is not just about Camilla or William, but about the broader relationship between institutions and the media environment. In an age where attention is currency, rumors will always find a market. The question is whether audiences will demand more rigor and accuracy, or whether the cycle of sensationalism will continue unchecked. The fallout of this particular rumor suggests that while many people enjoy the drama, others are becoming more aware of the need for careful consumption of information. Ultimately, the idea that Camilla has fled the country because of an $80 million lawsuit is not supported by facts. The fallout, then, is not a change in the monarchy, but a reminder of how easily stories can escalate and how quickly they can affect public perception. For the royal family, this may be one more challenge in managing image in the digital era. For audiences, it is a chance to reflect on how we engage with the news and how we can distinguish between entertainment and reality. As the dust settles, the reality remains that the monarchy continues, the royals continue their duties, and no lawsuit has been filed. The real story here is not about Camilla leaving the country, but about the power of rumors to shape conversation. That perhaps is the most significant fallout of all.